All right, what's happening? Welcome to another webinar from ZonGuru, where we host elite agencies and we get into the nitty-gritty that happens behind the Amazon curtain. Really excited about today's panel. This has been an awesome series. We get a lot of good feedback, really, where we get these experts to come on and talk about our world of Amazon and how to navigate it. And yeah, really cool panel here today. I've known these guys for some time, and I'm excited to hear what they've got to say. So if you're joining right now, I see there's a lot of people that have jumped on at the start, which is awesome. I'd love for you to share in the chat where you're from. It's always cool to hear where you're from and anything else you want to share. It's as engaging as you make it. So we'd love to hear from you. Post questions as we go. We'll answer them as we can. And let's just have fun for the next hour and get into our world of Amazon. So, let's see some comments come there. I know it takes a couple seconds for it to start coming through, but I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, while those comments come in, let's introduce the panel today. Obviously, starting with myself, Jon from ZonGuru. We really help you focus around your Amazon SEO, GEO. And we're going to talk a lot about Cosmo and Rufus today, and how to optimize for that within your listings, how to map it technically, and get into a little bit of that space and what we're seeing happen all around. So that's me, Jon. Let's go around. I'd love to hear just a short intro from yourself, Sean, and then we'll go Jonny and Corey.
Yeah, Sean Travis, live out here in LA, city of Los Angeles. Founder of a program called Ecom for Heroes. So we've been in the game about 6 years. And in addition to building our own brands, we also coach fellow first responders on how to build out their own. So we're doing everything from navigating from fresh starting a business, defining what an LLC is, some people don't know, to all the way to 8-figure sellers. So a little jack of all trades. We're trying to refine, but we're in the mix.
Yeah, awesome. And I've known Sean for some time. We actually met at AMZ Innovate, I think maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And that was a cool meeting of the minds. And it's really cool to see Sean on this journey and what he's doing in the space. Very, very cool. And some cool brands that he has as well, which is awesome. All right, let's go over to Jonny, all the way in from the UK.
Yeah, just outside London. But yeah, I appreciate Sean taking earlier calls than me. It's 5 p.m. for me, so I've had a nice long work day before this. My name is Jonny Golding. I run AMZPPC. I actually used to have my own brands and exited those and then moved into the agency game. We typically work more like 7- and 8-figure brands. And obviously specifically in PPC, although that is slightly broadening at the moment. So that might be a discussion for the future. But yeah, it's a little bit about where we are. I've been in business for about 6-7 years now. Amazing.
And I don't think we mentioned that, but Sean, what's your topic today? What are you going to cover?
Oh yeah, one of the things that we kind of prioritize is product discovery and then how to develop, right? How do we stand out in the world of Chinese copycats, and everyone's a copycat? And then how do you protect? How do you make way? And then how do you use AI to do it all? So
awesome.
Yeah,
dude, super cool. And Jonny?
A little bit about AMC. I think it's a brand new tech that's quite interesting. We've got some nice, easy entry-level ways in rather than this sort of hard coding that has been the case for a long time.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting to dive into. This, access to data, there's a lot in AMC, and then how to use it is going to be interesting. And then Corey from Buffalo. Yeah, good to see you again, and give us a little intro.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Corey. I'm the founder and CEO of buffaBRAND Marketing. We are a full-service Amazon and Beyond agency that's focused on U.S. sellers and in the SMB space. So we focus on people in that $1 to $5 million range that are looking to have their marketplaces kind of either full service, or we plug in a la carte in the different areas that they need them. I've also owned and partnered into numerous other 6- and 7-figure brands and exited a couple of those this past year. And I'm going to be talking about team or talent, kind of figuring out whether it makes sense to work with people like all of us, or if it makes sense to hire some in-house to train and all of that, and kind of some of the nuances and decision making based on that, and where we sit, this year versus kind of in the past, as far as how that can work with all of remote work. We'll touch on a few things there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's so useful. And I think that also points to kind of the panel that we have today. Is like, yes, there's a lot of expertise here around Amazon, but everyone here in the own is a really strong founder, entrepreneur, people who understand how to navigate and grow business on Amazon, but actually grow businesses as well. So I think in your questions here, everyone listening, feel free to ask questions literally about Amazon, about e-commerce in general, but even insights around business growth, entrepreneurship. You've got a really cool panel here that can answer those questions. All right, so how we're going to roll today is we've got an hour together. Everyone's going to present and educate and teach really for 10 minutes each. It's really more of a campfire style setup, so there will be ongoing conversation. If you have questions, post them in the chat. We'll answer them as we go, and then we'll leave space at the end for true Q&A and get into any questions. So the conversation is going to be as good as the questions are. So I really encourage everyone here to ask some cool questions. Really cool to see a whole bunch of people jumping in here from Israel. Adam Pixler from Mexico. Really cool to see you, man. It's been a minute. Greg Knott, Ariane, Steve, Ohio, Oklahoma, US, Florida. Just keep on going. Yeah, Palestine, Los Angeles. Very cool. So a bunch of people here coming in. Again, ask questions as we go. I think I'll before we jump in, I'll start maybe just a quick touch on the lay of the land, like from everyone's perspective here. We're into Q4. We've just got through Prime Day. What's the feeling right now from the brands you're working on, the clients? How did Prime Day go? What do you feel is happening in the marketplace? Where are the pain points? Or where are people focusing, shifting? Any kind of high level feeling on that? I mean, I'll probably go first on this and just say, I think the general feeling I got from Prime Day from our brands and the clients we work with is it was a little soft. And usually it's a little soft up front and then it kind of pulls through, but overall it was soft, I would say. Again, it could just be, the consumer space right now and buying power, but it also could just be the number of promotions that are always happening on the Amazon side. And certainly, for us, it was really interesting to see how brands that changed their listings, how that impacted both conversion rates and overall, click-through rates and everything, which was good indications of how the algorithm on Amazon is shifting. And I think that's going to be an important theme continuing for the rest of this year and into next year. So that's kind of how I'm feeling right now at a high level. Any other comments?
Corey, you look like you want to speak.
I didn't want to be the first one to jump in. Yeah. So my perspective on Prime Day and Prime Days as a whole over the last 2 years has kind of become a little monotonous. I think the consumer, like you said, there might be some macroeconomics things happening, particularly in North America, but we've seen a flattening of Prime Days in general. I think from our perspective, and again, I come from more of that SMB, not so much enterprise space. So that might be different. Maybe someone else can speak to that a bit more. But what we've seen is a huge softening, especially this fall Prime Days. The 10 days leading up to it were the softest sales we've seen across all categories for quite some time. And usually that is commensurate with a huge bump once we get to Prime Day. But we didn't see quite the same bump we did in previous years. And so for me, one of the things we've been kind of coaching even is like maybe not participating in full, finding other ways to have victories, not giving away margin for sales tomorrow just because it's a fun day that everyone wants to have huge numbers on, because those you're just giving away your bad sales essentially. So we've kind of been working towards that, but that's been more and more true each Prime Day that we see go past. Of course, there's always exceptions to that, but that's what we've kind of seen in our space.
Awesome. Yeah.
I agree with that sentiment as well. Like we saw it was pretty weak. And I do think the fact that the July Prime Day was a 4-day Prime meant a lot of brands decided not to even play the game this Prime Day. I think a lot of people were a bit pissed off, to be honest. They didn't get fantastic results. There was definitely a slide. And we saw the same thing. It was a very weak Prime. Our larger brands did quite well because they had a few products they were trying to shift and we were able to do that. But pretty much anyone in the sort of 6-7 figure range, it was pretty weak across the board. I think we tend to use it as more of a testing period for Black Friday as well. So we'll run Prime Day and see which deals we may want to run for Black Friday, test out a few products, and then depending on the results we get, we can potentially set those up for Black Friday as well. So that's typically how we've historically used the October Prime, because it's never as big as the July Prime anyway. So we don't consider it a massive sales event. And I definitely agree with you, Corey. The idea of sort of chasing revenue over profit, it seems a bit misleading unless you have a very specific goal around it, because it looks great making 6-7 figures on a day or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily come to the bottom line. Whereas if it's a sort of revenue growth project, you're trying to get momentum, that's a slightly different story. I think it's understanding what the goal is before you go in helps as well.
Yeah, we actually, to counterpoint that, we actually saw a really, really cool increase with specifically our consumables. So supplements or something we're eating or digesting or whatever. And I say that in a broad term because we have everything from pet consumables to human consumables. And specifically in those went up. So the subscribe and save specific, for whatever reason, we saw a big uptick. But this last Prime Day specifically wasn't as big of an uptick as July's. The other thing, and I don't know how gray area this is to mention specifically, so I'll say just reach out to me after, but what are you guys doing to price anchor before doing big sale prices? So that's the other thing, right? If I'm already at a 20%.
There's no gray area here, dude. Just
right. Okay. Are you price anchoring, right? What are you doing? Like, are you doing the Best Buy model to like, hey, this TV's been, $500 all year, but we're going to start selling it for $700 real quick so that it's bought at $700. So now that I'm running my sale off $700 back to $500. So I'm not losing that profit margin. So are we doing that? And so there's a couple ways that we're able to do that to price anchor, especially with our subscribe and saves, because those are going to be huge wins, right? And you might take a little, right? Off a $40 product, you might have to sell for $38, but that's different than having to sell for $24, right? So yeah, really focusing on that, but specifically, with our ingestibles, our consumables.
And one other call out on that is, and how long is that going to be able to be in play? Because we see Amazon's testing the price history click through, where you can now, as a consumer, potentially, we've always been able to see it, right? Like we can watch all of our different tools that we have. But as a consumer, if you can start to see that, you see that price anchoring happening, does that erode your trust in the brand? I think that's a topic for conversation a little down the road here, but it's coming to the forefront here. If they end up releasing that fully out there to everybody, it'll start to change how we kind of interact with exactly that model.
Right. And then in which case, let's not do Prime Day.
That's where my head was going too, is like, a lot of, and I think there's a question here as well, like, what about Black Friday? Maybe people are feeling like, oh shit, like, excuse the French, but like, does this mean it's going to be a pretty soft Q4? But maybe what's really happening is like, hey, we even see it on the listing side, like we can start to lean into this idea of brand and being consistent and not being like thrown each direction by different Prime days and etc. And we can build to like a consistent price and profit and maybe like a strong, consistent holiday season, right? I don't know if anybody has thoughts around that, but are you, I guess, concerned that it's going to be soft for the rest of the year, or you feel like, hey, it's going to be a pretty good rest of Q4? Anybody?
I mean, we're confident so far. I think it depends on what you're selling as well. I think if you're sort of a budget, non-branded product, I think it's a little bit tougher. If you have a strong brand and strong recognition, then running deals and things like that are a very different scenario. And that's where we see most success as well. I think the whole model of buy it off Alibaba and try and flog it on Amazon is long gone at this point. And it's very much brand building now. And especially with, like some Chinese manufacturers selling for pennies on the dollar and, driving price down, I think the brand building side is where things are going to move anyway. So we're confident in the brands. I think the guys who have weak brands may struggle though.
Yeah. And there's a big focus, I think, from brand, like people being brands bigger. We've always said it, you've got to be bigger than Amazon. It has to be one of your channels, but how do you be bigger? And you're seeing a lot of focus around that, omni-channel, TikTok, what's coming, and broadening beyond Amazon, which is a good thing. Okay, guys, we're going to jump into it. Really cool to see how many people are live here. There's plenty. So let's see the questions roll in. Love to see that coming in. We're going to jump into the presentation side of it. I think I'm first. I don't know if we had a specific list or if Ivo said, Ivo, do you know, was there a specific list of the order? I think we'll just roll with like how it is on the screen here. So it'll be me, then Corey, Jonny, and then Sean. And I think that's a good way to roll. I'll get going. So let me share my screen and I'll start the timer again. So everyone here has 10 minutes. Put your questions in, and then we're going to have a big Q&A at the end as well. All right, let me share. All right, let me know if you guys can see my screen. You guys can see it? Okay, great. Okay, all right. So jumping into ZonGuru, if you don't know who ZonGuru is, I would say right now at this moment, we're engineered to meet Amazon's AI moment and beyond. I think we've got, a lot of tools on ZonGuru that you can use to help get insights and grow your Amazon business. But specifically, our strength over the years has been around, listing SEO, keyword intelligence, how to create the best listings, the first company in our space to integrate with ChatGPT. These are things that we're synonymous with in the space. And, we have a lot of strength around understanding and testing Amazon's algorithm and then how to create the best content to align with that and obviously get more conversions as well. So that's going to be a big topic for today with a lot of the shifts and interests that are happening around the algorithm on Amazon. I guess the first couple of things, the first thing I want to do is start my timer here so I don't run long. So sorry about that. I think that the first thing I want to mention here, sorry guys, hold on one second. Here we go. Great. I think it's maybe 2 weeks ago or so, Amazon announced that they're going to have now an instant checkout as part of ChatGPT. So as customers, you can, search research on ChatGPT, have that answer style agent engagement, and then when you are surface recommendations, you can actually click on that to buy, right? That is a massive game changer in the space, and it's coming. The power play between Amazon, Google, ChatGPT, Shopify, and how you as brands can get positioned in an SEO or GEO way on these platforms is going to be critical, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out in the next while. Certainly what we're seeing is schematically, how you rank or get visibility on platforms like ChatGPT and how you should schematically, structure your listings on Amazon are extremely similar, right? Which is a good thing because we'll get into this, but I think how you structure listings there will give you some additional visibility on some of these platforms, which is great. The other thing which was announced, I think yesterday or the day before, is now ChatGPT has released its own browser, right? So you can instead of Chrome, you can open up a browser and you can bring up different websites, and it's really, you should test it. I've started to test with it, but it's pretty cool. You can bring up Airbnb on a website, and then you can bring up the ChatGPT agent on the side, and you can ask questions like, hey, around this property, are there really interesting hikes that are nearby? And it's going to give you answers. So it contextually looks at what you're looking at and then does the research as an agent on the side. In addition to that, there's agent mode. You can do requests. There's a bunch of things you can do there. So what's interesting about that is like this movement from the consumer perspective of how you do your research, how you find things, how you buy things is massively changing, right? And I think that aligns with this unpopular opinion, which I mentioned, which it changes all the time. I was throwing these up, but the Amazon search bar doesn't matter anymore. AI is your new front page, right? And it's not there obviously yet. There's intent in the search bar, but it is changing, and Amazon has to keep up, right? And so this idea of having that agent conversational way of researching and finding products is becoming absolutely the new norm, and it's getting integrated into everything. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, Rufus, which is obviously the answer engine, comparison to ChatGPT, this is going to become more and more important. How you have those conversations, what is that intelligent algorithm behind that, and then most importantly, how do you make sure that your products are visible within that, right? Very, very important. And I think the other part there is that if your listing isn't optimized in the right way, not only are you losing visibility on Amazon, but by what I've just shown you, you can actually lose visibility on these platforms, right? Because it's looking for these cues from not only the structure of your listings, but various other points there as well. So it really behooves you to make sure that you're schematically optimized on Amazon, and that'll help you on Amazon and beyond. Used to optimize for the cert, but now you need to optimize for the answer, right? And that's just for customers, how they are starting to engage with content. Everyone does it today, right? You're going on to ChatGPT, you're doing all your research, having the conversation, you're finding what you want, and then you're jumping over to Amazon to buy it, right? Rufus has to now become that. Otherwise, they're going to lose even more ground to ChatGPT, and especially with the integration of the shopping side of it, they're going to lose more ground. So they have to keep up. They can't be left behind, which is a really important point for us as brands to understand. Again, guys, like everyone knows this, but I think there is a shift happening. We don't know where it is right now. Obviously, between Amazon's algorithm, the A9, it's actually looking for keywords, broad match, exact match on your listings, and then kind of semantically matching that and finding the universe. That is really where the A9 was, and it's moving to this idea of the like Google ChatGPT overviews or Cosmo and Rufus, right? Cosmo being the algorithm on that side, and like how does it keep up with that conversation? And everyone's going to say that right now. Hey, Rufus isn't a great experience, and it's not used as much, but it has to keep up. Otherwise, they're going to lose ground. So, ensuring that they have a great experience there on Amazon, and then have the intelligent enough algorithm to surface recommendations in the right way is important, and that's beyond A9, right? It has to move very quickly. So that shift between A9 and where Cosmo is going is important. As I said, there's, from our testing and everything, there's similarities from the schematic setup of your listings on Amazon and obviously all of these platforms. So it's aligning with this new intelligence around an answer engine and how to have recommendation and conversations. We're really literally right now at the forefront of this, and then we're going to jump in to show you what this looks like. But our goal here at this point and in the future is not only to make sure that you are schematically matched for Amazon, but beyond with ChatGPT. What's happening in that space? Perplexity, as those e-commerce engines come about. What's the SEO around your listings, and how can we make sure that you've got as much visible content there as well? Now, there's going to be other important power plays around there in terms of how Amazon and how ChatGPT let Amazon listings surface, but it is critical to make sure that you're future-proofing right now for when those moments become critical, right? We have a new service. We've been live on this new service, and I'm going to just show you a little bit of that and educate you around how that works. But it's called the Cosmo Transformation Service. We built this multi-agentic model that uses AI in the right way, which is one, to get the insights in a bulk format for your listings as to how to better understand your customer sentiment, reviews, feedback, questions and answers, the Rufus side of it, your USP, your unique selling position, all of the things that matter. AI is very good at understanding and pulling out those deep insights, which helps you with human conversion. So you now have the ability to write your listings in a much more brand authentic way of running your listings, and then you can technically AI map it as well. So there is a true technical mapping now for Cosmo, and if you structure your listings in the right way, it'll semantically match you to the universe of keywords and conversations and experiences that are out there, right? So this is what this does, and it takes your current listing and then it evolves it into this. It finds the gaps, tells you what the gaps are, and then it evolves it into what it needs to be. I think this is the service. We've been live for a little over, I think it's a month and a half right now, and we're getting amazing feedback and results from the application of this within the marketplace, which has been really cool to see. And I think it's important here to understand that we're still giving you full control of your brand. What's really cool about this service and what's different is we allow the agent to get input from you as a brand owner, right? So there's a brand intake form. You can teach us about the brand or teach the agents around your brand. and then it uses that in its tonality and its way that it expresses it, which is a really cool insight from us. And we're getting a lot of good feedback there, which is like leaning into this idea that like we understand you're the experts of your brand, and giving you that opportunity to lean into that and teach the agents so that it's writing your listings in a better way, in the best way possible, and staying away from things that you don't want it to mention. So there's a lot in there. And I've only got a couple of minutes here, so I'm gonna jump through the rest here. I think this is an important point, and I kind of mentioned this already. The technical mapping is there, but also the human insights. This is some feedback that we're getting. Overall, people are amazed at what can be created with the tool in a bulk format and the insights. And what they're doing right now is testing it, A/B testing, putting it in and seeing the results. And we're getting a lot of good feedback that click-through rate is up, sessions are up, and conversion rate, most importantly, is up, which is the combination of the technical mapping and the human insights, right? I want to just jump ahead here and just talk a little bit about what does this technical mapping look like, right? And I think the main point here is like when you're writing your listings, you can really focus on what we call Cosmo knowledge triples, which is focused around how you structure sentences that allows it's like a knowledge graph that the algorithm Cosmo will map to, and then map you to the experiences and intent from buyers out there. I'm going to show you what that looks like. There's definitely a search and co-buy, so ensuring that you have a connection between your product and what other things are bought in that experience. And then these relations and tail types, which I'll show you what it looks like in a second. So this is actually from Amazon. They've technically given us documents saying, hey, this is how you need to map your listings so that the algorithm has the best chance of mapping you to all these experiences. And what's great about AI is you can take this and write any content and then test it and make sure that it's mapped to this, right? So if you have a product like this, like a burger presser, we can just run it through our system. This is a snippet inside of our intelligence. It will say, hey, here's where it's mapped, but here's where it isn't. And then based on where it isn't, we'll start to improve it. And not only are we improving it from the technical mapping, but we can write these in a much more emotive, connecting way with customers, which helps with the conversion rate, right? And I think that is one of the coolest things about this is like now with this algorithm, it gives us as brand owners or as agencies the ability to really lean into emotive, brand focused, problem solving listings rather than just ingredient based listings where we're trying to stuff it with all this content. So it gives you a chance to really make the best listings out there. I think that is important to just the thing I want to see is there is a technical mapping. Now, importantly, it isn't just the technical mapping, and it's not veering completely away from A9. Like we're still trying to CYA or cover our own asses at the moment and make sure that, especially in the titles, we've got broad matching for your main keywords. So just understand that in this mapping, we are future-proofing it and aligning with Cosmo and the technical mapping, but we're still accounting for this idea of at least broad matching and focusing on your main relevant keywords in your title, which I think is important. This is a product, and then just to kind of show you the output, and you can get this on the landing page if you're curious to see what the reports look like. This is what it looks like, right? It comes through, and I know this might be hard to read at the moment, but the point is we give you, everything that is important around, the old listing and what the new listing is, but also the reasons why. So we show you how it's mapped. We explain how it's evolved, why this is important to talk about. We highlight all the customer sentiment that's coming out, right? So you can truly understand your customer. We highlight things like your image narrative. There's a whole image analysis that goes in here in a deep way. We give you the order of your images, what you should put into your images, what copy you should put in there. So, there's many pages here of the listing that you can look at. And if you go to this page, I'll give you a link to it as well. At the bottom, there's a PDF example that you can download if you want to see what it looks like. And that's the kind of insight that we give you. And there's a process that you follow. You simply you don't even have to have a subscription to ZonGuru at this time. You can literally just sign up. We have an opening deal of about $100 per parent listing. So you just pay the $100, and then we run it through the system. You input it, and then you get this output, which is a full new listing content, recommendations, listing mapping, and then a full deep dive on your images and insights into how you should order your images, prompts that you can put into Nana Bananas. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, so you can get the true best, images and give the creative brief to your graphic designer, so they can do that. But on the content side, we're mapping it. And the main feedback we're getting is, yes, it's technical mapping, but I found insights in this as to how to express and communicate my brand that I've never thought about before. And that's like the power of this, which really helps connecting with customers and helping you with conversion. If you want to get access to this, again, so it's you submit it, you go through the process. It's AI tech for sure, but we have a human team that is running through and evolving it for you as well. And then we give you back everything at the end across both the listings and images. You can obviously QR code that on your phone, or if you want to get to it, just go to zonguru.link/Cosmo-100. And if you are the first 10 that get in, we will give you a discount on your second submission as well. So I highly encourage you to get in, do this now. Whether you do it and you A/B test now during Q4, or you ready yourself for Q1 is up to you. But you need to get in and get it done right now, because this shift is happening, and you need to be future-proofed and ahead of the game. And frankly, if you do it right now, you're going to get better conversion rate regardless, right? So get in, get this going across your main SKUs. We're looking forward to seeing how this works for you, but we're getting some good results so far. Good. So I'll drop this in the chat. This is from me. I think the last thing to leave you with there is like, let's make sure that you are going through the system, getting the insights, and it's giving you the ability to connect better with your customers, get some good insights there, and then mapping and future-proofing your listing for what's happening on Amazon now, what's happening in the future, and more importantly, what's happening off of Amazon is going to be critical for your brands. That's it from me. I will stop there, and we're gonna jump over to I think we said Corey's next. If anybody has any comments, I'd love to hear from you guys on the panel about what I just covered there, or we can literally just jump into Corey's slide as well.
One real quick thing. So it's a living ecosystem now, right? So we're pulling from AI, from the comments and the conversation going on around whatever it is our USP or UVP is. So how often should we be updating?
A good question. And I think the answer is it's ever evolving and ever changing, right? But at the moment, how we see this is mapping your listings first, writing the content in the right way. From initial push that we're doing, we're not seeing a drop. We're certainly seeing sessions improve or stay flat. We're seeing an improving in conversion rates, and it's an ongoing process where we're tracking right now, and then we are in the final developments of being able to automate some tweaks and changes to those listings once they're in the system, right? So I don't think there's a massive shift in terms of having to update and change constantly, but to your point, I think being ahead of the game or on top of the game in terms of like what questions are being asked and answered, and getting to the reviews and the sentiment and seeing if there's any other opportunity to jump on before everyone else, I think is certainly something that is just going to get faster and faster. And if we can track it and keep getting that feedback in our system, it'll help brands to stay ahead of the game. All right, Corey, floor is yours. Good. Let's get going. And thanks again for the questions. I'll post my link in there, and we'll come back to a lot of these questions.
Yeah, appreciate it. We're going to switch topics from something that's very tech forward to something that's maybe a little more nuanced and more based on intuition. There's going to be some science here that we're going to use as leaders for our brands, for our businesses. But a lot of this is going to become more intuition of what works and what feels right for your brand as you're trying to figure this out. This is called, kind of team or talent, but I think in my mind, I could say this is called team, talent, or tech, because tech can replace team and team can replace tech when it comes to where you are in your business. I know a lot of people will probably see this and be like, oh, this guy runs an agency. Like, he's going to be biased. He's going to say, like, go hire an agency. Before that, I've run in-house brands. I've been in those rooms. I've advocated against hiring agencies when it's the right call. So I've kind of been on both sides. I work with a lot of brands that do a mixture of both. And I think that I've got a really good pulse on this and kind of figuring out when and where it makes sense to kind of dive in and get people in-house. I've got a couple brand examples as well right now that are doing both and are doing both really effectively, and we're working with them. So we'll look at it from that perspective, but we're going to kind of just look at some of the factors. Now, one of the big things, what I'm going to call out before I even jump in here, is this is a different conversation based on how large your business is, right? So if you are a small team, a super small team, if you're a mid-sized team, so let's say you're like a husband and wife, or you're like a team of 10, or you're a team of 100 or 1,000, you have huge brands. This is going to be different points on here are going to be more important than others. Another call out right away is, because I've worked in both as well, is this a hybrid position availability? Is this remote? Like, are you a remote-based company? Can you work remotely with others? I've worked in-house at brands that the main reason that they couldn't hire agencies is because they couldn't communicate and work with those teams because they weren't remote enough. I think we've taken a step away from that with all the tech that's come out and just how everything works nowadays. Post-COVID, I think a lot of that shifted. But with a lot of return to office, I think that's part of the conversation as well. So we're going to keep this really high level. We're going to just kind of go through some different qualifiers and have just a quick conversation. Guys, I'm happy, anyone on here to jump in if you guys have questions as well, or you want to just add a tidbit of like how this impacts you, totally fine with that. Let me actually click it so I can do some things here. Okay. Start right off with it. Money is one of the biggest things that we have to figure out, right? Like when you're starting to launch a brand or you're in the middle and you need services, you need to figure out your budget. So the way that these slides are all going to work is kind of the in-house is the top one. And then hiring experts is going to kind of be the bottom one. So we'll talk through a few different points. When you're in-house, you have salaries, you have people that are committed to your business. You have office space a lot of times. You have to pay for benefits. These are people that you care about, and you have to have ongoing costs. Whether or not you have work to be done, which is one of the considerations, whether or not the value of that work matches up, that person is employed by your company and they're going to come and they're going to sit at their desk every day and they're going to want to pound away at something. And so you need to have a lot going on there. Obviously, that can be more expensive. But conversely, when you get into more agency style or hiring people, it's more pay per project. It's more flexible. It could be seasonal. The fees themselves can be higher, but the baseline, when you look across an entire year, can be either much higher or much lower, depending on how you're growing and some of those other factors that I said. So you really want to have a cost analysis of what this is really going to look like for me on a yearly basis. I think a lot of people get into, I need this right now, and they don't think through for their brand. Do I need a graphic designer for the next 2 years? Or do I need a graphic designer for the next 2 weeks? And what's that going to cost me? Yeah, maybe it costs more right now, but over the next 6 months, is that going to save me money? So budget's obviously a huge consideration when it comes to hiring talent in-house or out. Expertise, I think this one's a little more nuanced. So, from my perspective, what I've seen is when you're in-house, usually it's much slower. It's a much more steady, slow to train, to manage. You have a lot of people collaborating all at one time. What you get is you also get deep topical expertise. I worked at a pool company for 3 years, guys. I know more about pools than everyone on this panel. I guarantee it. It's all still up there. A bunch of my team members also worked there before coming over to my team. So we probably are the agency with the most pool knowledge in the entire world. I'll put that out there right now. I'm willing to challenge anyone else. But that's what happens when you sit in a room and you just live and breathe pools. You live and breathe that culture, whatever's going on, negative, positive, doesn't matter. It also involves a lot of long-term strategic thinking. When you get into working with someone with some expertise and skill sets, what you get when you work with like a team like ours, you get a ton of platform knowledge. We might not know your product, but I guarantee we know the platform better than everybody that's sitting in your office, right? And so you have to weigh those benefits of, can we convey enough about that product and that brand to make the platform knowledge work for us? Or is this something that's so nuanced that we have to be immersed in it every day to even understand it? The knowledge doesn't matter. Another thing here is like, how fast are you scaling? Because if you're rapidly scaling, adding staff can be a huge bottleneck for your company. Whereas you can literally hire someone tomorrow to start working on your AI listings, right? Hiring someone in-house to do your AI listings, when you have no one that knows how to manage that, much more difficult. So expertise is going to be a huge piece. Right along there, speed, right? So when you're in-house, it definitely takes longer to ramp up. You have a much more limited reach. Let's say you're actually an office-based. Hey, I'm here in Buffalo and I'm hiring, right? Like, how many people can you actually hire to do that know the exact niche thing that you're looking to do? It's probably a limited pool. Might drive the cost up. Might be more difficult to even find interviews or to add talent. But you are like also investing in the quality long-term of these people. So you might be able to get some cross training. You might be able to get additional seasonality and some changes over that time. For when you're working with an expert or an agency, you definitely get a more diverse, talented team who's been in the trenches and on these platforms for a longer time. So as an example, if you are an in-house and you're like, we want to hire our first PPC manager, but I've never looked at PPC before. Well, it's going to be really hard to manage that and to get that up and running quickly. Whereas you could hire an agency tomorrow and they literally could onboard you and in 24 hours be running your ads. So that's a huge advantage for speed, but maybe not the long-term quality and control that you're looking for, right? Control is my next topic here. So when it comes to having control over workflows, I've seen a lot of places that really like to stand at the desk, have those conversations, really press on how they want things done. They want collaboration, or they have a lot of security issues and they're really worried about confidentiality, which we can all talk about too, like hijackings, big things like that. That leans in-house. When you're at an agency, you don't have insight into like another company's culture as much. Like, yes, you can build that relationship over time, but it's hard to get that going. It's a hard roadmap. We definitely have people now, like 5 years in, that have worked with us for years and years that we really truly do understand, but that doesn't happen in 6 months. Whereas someone who sits at a desk every day and works next to someone else, 6 months is a long time, right? You get to know that person pretty intimately and how they work and how to best get things out of them. Also, you have a lot more, I think this is actually a positive. So you get a lot more open-ended solutions when you work with people outside of your agency or outside of your business. When you're kind of looking at a small pot of people, the skill set's finite and the solutions might be finite as well. When you work with consultancies and agencies and talent, they're able to see things that you can't see working on your brand only, because they see so many brands. We see these issues. Hey, I have a compliance issue. I'm getting things taken down, or hey, this API broke. I personally have been through that 100 times. I think that's a great thing. Like, that means that you're a good seller, right? These issues are good things because you've been in the game long enough to have success and have things break. But you don't have that perspective when you're a brand. And it's hard to look at people that you're managing and have that as well. And the last thing is just flexibility. We're always looking at steady, predictable, long-term collaboration for an in-house. You want to get a really good team. That can get interrupted when people leave. It can leave huge gaps. When you work with someone outside or an agency or a team, that's more or less their problem. Sometimes I do hear that from people. Hey, we really liked working with Steve over at this company. Steve left, and now we feel like there's a gap. So that can be an issue, but then the flexibility, on-demand pricing, and the ability to rapidly change scale is absolutely massive. And kind of as a last little piece here, I just made a quick little chart that kind of just highlights everything on there. If anybody wants it, send it. I'll share it to you afterwards. I know that we always get that, but essentially it just kind of breaks down like, hey, what types of things lean one way or lean the other? And again, it's still based on, can you work remote? Are you enterprise? What are you selling? How specialty is it? And a number of other factors. But this gives you a nice little cheat sheet of kind of, hey, we should lean towards this, at least as a starting point for entertaining the idea of bringing on talent. And that's it. I don't have an ask. I just wanted to bring value.
Awesome. Yeah. So how do people get hold of you if they need you?
LinkedIn, buffaBRAND.com, or just LinkedIn. You could definitely find me on there. I'm sure a lot of us are connected.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I say this to my team all the time. I say the fastest way to get fired by a client is do what the client says, right? And I think
love that. Genuine smiles from everyone, right?
Right.
All the agencies smile here, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah. But the truth in that is like, okay, well, what are you hiring this agency to do, and what is their expertise, and let them be the experts that they need to be, right? And so I think you have to really think about that as a brand, and what you truly want the agency to do, because if you just want them to do whatever you tell them to do, you're missing the opportunity, right? And they won't be successful at what they need to do to really grow your brand. So that's one of the touchstones, is like trying to figure out like what can they actually come in and be the experts on, and then allow you as a brand owner to focus on the other stuff, the other 1,000 things that you need to do, right? So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And I also think the other point there is like, AI is there was a more of a traditional kind of conversation, which is important, but AI is ultimately changing the work process, making it more efficient and allowing people to lean into their expertise more, right? And their creativity. So whether that's internally or not, obviously with agencies, we have to fundamentally be on top of that game. How do we be more efficient, use all of the new AI flows? So like, if you're looking for that in your business and an efficient way of doing it, like, they're going to bring that technology chops to your company as well, which is kind of interesting. Any other comments there for Corey?
I think he was pretty complete about that, to be fair, from my perspective. But please go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, the hiring ladder is always huge too. Who do you hire first, right? That's a big one. And for me, it's always executive assistant, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you guys reach out to buffaBRAND, like, who am I hiring first? That's always a big question too. Don't hire yourself, right? You want to hire to replace for the stuff you don't like. Or you're not that good at.
And that was actually going to just be my last little touch point here is, we're working with a brand right now that we launched last year on Amazon. They're going to do multiple millions of dollars this year, large brand. And I keep saying, like, the best thing that he does as a leader, the CEO, is he hires really good people. And this is actually both sides of what I was just talking about. He actually hires really great agencies and he gets the hell out of the way. He's just like, hey, you work with you. I'm going to do the brand driving. I'm going to do the community. I have the vision. I have all the things, but Google, Amazon, you guys just do them and do them really, really well. And then when there's holes, he says, all right, I'm going to hire someone in-house that can help us with managing orders, customer service, things that like should be highly immersive, things that you really do need to know the brand, or I need you to be potentially on staff for 80 hours this week because something broke. I'm not going to pay my agency to do that. That is a superpower, but that is something that everyone needs to kind of start. That's where this conversation starts. Truly great leaders can take this conversation, figure out where they sit as an organization, and then they can utilize that as a foundational principle of, this is when I make a move, and I make a move based on all of these factors plus my intuition.
100%. Yeah. And that's just leaning into that entrepreneur leadership side of, like, more and more like emotional intelligence around, the company dynamics and the company team is so critical, right? I'm going to Bulgaria where our team is based, our development team, next week. And part of our workshop is like, let's talk about the leadership dynamics, right? A team is best because you all have different strengths and you have weaknesses, right? And so together, obviously, you potentially better. So what are the guidelines and the manifestos around 1 + 1 = 3, right? And how it can work well. But there are situations where 1 + 1 can equal -3, right? And so understanding, like, what are you good at? Where are the weaknesses, and how does the team balance itself, whether that's internally or with your agency, is exactly critical, right? And going back to that point, if you just have a client telling you what to do, there's no point in having an agency partner on that side, right? So you've got to kind of like figure that out as a brand owner before you bring in the right agency. And it's so easy for brands like, oh, that agency sucks and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, is it the agency or was it you? And you brought in the wrong agency or didn't have the right expectations or whatever, right? And all the guys.
Or one other final point here, and I'm sure you guys you've all run into this. Did you, as the CEO, the leadership, hire the agency and you have a great partnership, and then you tried to replace yourself in that relationship? You put in some sort of programmatic leader and said, hey, you work with the agency, and that relationship doesn't work because you've given them both conflicting or parallel goals that now put them into a position where that person internally wants credit, or they want. There are a lot of, every agency owner I've ever talked to has been put in that position and essentially has to kind of relaunch the relationship. So I want to identify that out to brand owners right now. Like, if you're thinking about doing that, yes, do that, but also facilitate the long-term relationship and realign all the goals for everyone so that everyone's rowing in the same direction.
Awesome. Good. Right, guys. Well, right now there's well over 100 people live. So, keep the questions coming. We want those questions coming in because we're going to have the Q&A towards the end and we'll answer as we go. So appreciate engagement there. Jonny, let's roll over to you, man. Let's talk AMC.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I will share my screen. I am going to be very hands-on inside of the account. So hopefully you can all see my screen there. Is that all good?
Yeah, we good.
Awesome. So I think the first thing to talk about is what the hell is AMC, because this is vastly confusing when you first get inside of the account. AMC is basically a way of segmenting your audience, both for analytics and then for actually like using those audience themselves and pushing spend in the right direction. And it's my personal opinion that AMC is going to be kind of the future of Amazon ads, actually. I think we've all seen that Amazon ads has kind of reached a bit of a, I'm not going to say a sticking point, but CPCs keep going up, ad spend keeps going up, and I think a lot of brands are struggling to compete. And I do fully believe that this is going to be a very large opportunity for most brands to kind of break into the marketplace in a slightly different way. It seems to be very heavily underutilized. In fact, I think out of all the brands we've spoken to in the past 6 months, maybe 1 or 2 are actually actively using AMC. So this is a great way of leapfrogging a bit of competition quite early on. Initially, AMC was very, very complicated to use. It required a lot of coding knowledge, schema, which is quite complex. Today, I'm really going to focus on the no-code stuff because that's accessible to basically everyone, and AMC should be available to everyone now. It got rolled out the other week. So you can all start doing this pretty much immediately. But you could literally do it alongside me if you wanted to. As I say, there's a whole host of different ways you can segment this. And actually, they do have some AI-based coding tools which can help you kind of put some stuff together. But if you're just starting, I really heavily advise going into the no-code stuff, just because it's going to be much, much easier to put things together with. The first audience we're going to look at is abandoned cart. Now, I think a lot of people are familiar with the abandoned cart percentages based on the brand analytics. If you haven't seen this before, if you go into your brand analytics, you can actually see how many people are abandoning the cart. Now, the typical solution to this was just to run a brand tailored promotion on abandoned cart users and try and kind of pump it up that way. We each have a really good solution now with AMC where we can run ads specifically to this audience. Really easy to build out. If you're doing the no code, you can pop in here. I'm going to explain this in a second. You do rules-based audience, put the name in, bang, you got yourself an audience, and then you can literally just go into your campaigns, target that audience, and put an increase in bid, and immediately you're targeting abandoned cart users. Now, this is obviously something you need to play around with in terms of what sort of bid multipliers and bid adjustments you want to put behind it. We normally recommend starting smaller and kind of working your way up as you would with pretty much any other form of advertising. But it's this way you don't have to run a big discount to kind of bring people in, like on brand tailored promotions. You can just set this up, put it in there, put a slight increase in bid. And the advantage of this as well is naturally this is intent driven. So this kind of sticks itself on top of your standard sponsored product ads, or sponsored ads in general, sorry. That just happened to be a sponsored product ad. So when people are searching for whatever your product happens to be, you know they're coming back to you, you know they've seen your product before, and you know they added it to the cart. You know the chance of conversion is extremely high, so you can put a much higher bid multiple on this and really get a lot of results. Now, this is one that we'd recommend for most brands. For a lot of these other things, it's going to be dependent on what sort of product you have. So typically abandoned cart, you are going to see better results if you have a sort of higher price point product. Naturally, if you've got a $5 item and someone abandons the cart, they're probably not as likely to purchase because they don't need as many views to make that purchase. Whereas if you're selling a $200, $300, $400 item, they might need several looks at the product before they make that buy. There's actually a few other audience segments that can be very useful for that as well. But as you can see, you've got timeframes. Don't worry about the time zone too much. You can say, I want to look at people who have looked at in the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, got 365 days. You've got a whole host of audiences there. Typically, abandoned carts, you want to stick to relatively small timeframes, no longer than 30 or so. Otherwise, it tends to be reaching a little bit. I mean, you can test it. If you get good results, please let me know. But yeah, it's generally shorter timeframes is going to be useful. This audience type thing is, this can be very useful in different segments. This particular one, the abandoned cart one, it's not so useful. Basically, lookalike is finding an audience that looks similar to this audience. Now, typically, you're not trying to target people who have abandoned the cart previously. Maybe you want to test it out, but that's maybe not the exact audience segment you want to be targeting, which actually leads us on to something like this instead. So this is one that we really like, particularly for supplement brands or consumable brands in general, actually, which is a group of new to brand customers. So you can, I would always recommend looking at new to brand versus repeat segmentation and understanding where your weakness is. So if you do have a really low repeat buyer base or a really low new to brand base, you can kind of target accordingly. And AMC is really, really helping out with this in this regard. So with this, we can target new to brand customers, and we can include just only new to brand, and we can say we want them to have spent at least, I don't know, $50 or whatever it is with us. And again, target that exact audience or target people that look like this audience. Now, of course, with supplement or consumable products, those are very different sorts of people. So if we take this specific audience, this would be how we would increase our repeat buyers. And we'd say, look, we want to target all the guys who spent more than $50 with us as a new to brand buyer and go and target them to try and turn them into repeats. So if you have like a low repeat buyer base, this can be really useful to extend LTV and bring up those subscribe and save audiences. Whereas lookalike would be, we are looking for people who are getting into the brand, those new to brand buyers. Now, of course, you can just choose how similar or not you wish those people to be. But if you have a really good, strong LTV, strong customer base, this can be a great way of kind of bringing people in. Go target audiences like this. Go put a big multiplier on a major keyword. So, you know, if you're targeting protein powder, you know, super, super competitive keyword, if you're just blasting that out, that gets super expensive really, really fast. Whereas if you know for a fact these are going to be high potential customers for you, you're willing to accept that cost per click increase to go target those people because the chance of conversion and then higher LTV is substantially higher. I know I don't take too much time because I know Sean's got to go through his stuff as well. But we'll quickly run through one more while we're here. And this relates, again, very much to the consumable base, but you can use this in other segments as well. But lookalike audiences of subscribe and save customers. I think pretty much everyone who sells consumables knows they would really like to have more subscribe and save customers. This is a fantastic way to go target those people. Go find people who are super, super similar to your subscribe and save audience and just funnel cash behind those and make those your new to brand acquisitions. It's a fantastic way to build up that audience base. I say this is a really, really small segment of AMC. It's just these three are very quick to put together. Like literally, if I click go, create the audience and go into the ads, I can put that together right now and start targeting it. It takes less than 5 minutes. If you really want to get into it, there's heavy amounts of code you can put together. And I have it on one of the tabs here. This is a slightly different one. You can go use AI assistants and go build all this code out. This is really, really helpful. The prompt engine here, I won't edit this now. Say what you want to target or put the code in, you go copy that in and start making audiences. That's kind of the higher level stuff. I would really just focus on the no code, put some stuff together, see what sort of response you have and start building out from there. The more advanced stuff is really for the larger brands. So if you are doing more than sort of $500,000, $1 million a month, those more advanced coding sets start to make sense. And I would advise you speak with an expert for that. But for pretty much everyone here, doing some abandoned cart advertising is almost certainly going to help out. So we definitely recommend starting with that. But yeah, AMC is definitely the future of Amazon advertising. It's a very interesting segment that's growing, and I think it's only going to get larger, particularly with the likes of being able to pull off Amazon traffic on Amazon and target them and look-alike audiences from there. It's getting much more in-depth now. I won't take any more time. I know Sean's got to go.
Awesome. Yeah, you know, it's always interesting to think about it from Amazon's perspective. How do they make more money, right?
Yep.
And clearly, AMC is a much more sophisticated system, which is getting them. They've always been so far behind Google around the paid side of it, right? But it's helping them get closer to that with more data and more ability. But at the end of the day, they're going to make more money. Hopefully, you make more money as well. But you know, that's something they're going to lean into and get more sophisticated around. And so obviously things like retargeting, geo-based, you know, those are kind of things that are going to be really key for Amazon in the future.
Yeah, 100%. Especially if you're running DSP. So if you're a DSP heavy brand, then AMC becomes infinitely better, because that was one of the major issues with the DSP side, is the tracking was impossible before. You just had to kind of hope that the spend was working, and now you can see that whole path. That requires a bit more coding around, like seeing the path to conversion from DSP ad to sponsored display ad to sponsored product ad. I'll give everyone a little hint here. If you go through the path to conversion system, you will find that if you run sponsored brand ads or sponsored display ads, your sponsored product ads are going to be like 2-3 times better. The data is showing that very, very consistently. So that's why we recommend running sponsored brands and display. I would recommend pulling this segment out yourself and having a look at it though.
attribution, the mecca that we all chase, right? But obviously even better right now. Is there on this side of it, is there a specific size brand where it seems to be working better for, or is it working across the board?
I mean, big is always going to be better because you have more data to work with. There's no way around that. Obviously, the larger brands just have more to work with, and you can filter down more. It really depends what level of segmentation you're doing. Like the stuff here is pretty accessible for, I'd say, any brand doing like 50K and up a month. You can start to get some reasonable results. The more advanced stuff, you really need to be doing sort of 100, 200, 300,000 a month. It starts to become more useful. But the abandoned cart normally have a pretty big audience size, and excuse me, that's one thing to look at, is how big is the audience size that you're targeting within there. Because if it's only like 500 people, you're not going to get much of a result. If you've got sort of 20, 30,000 people in that audience segment, it starts to become more worthwhile. And lookalike audiences can be quite good for that, because you can build out a larger audience set quite quickly. Whereas if it's just your user base or customer base, obviously that's likely to be a smaller subset of people to work with.
No. Nice. Awesome. Good. Okay. Yeah, we still got some questions coming. I know we're going to run a little bit long. Hopefully, you guys are okay to stay, and we'll definitely do some Q&A. But let's get this over to Sean. Sean, walk us through, your thoughts there. It'd be great to share.
I thought about presenting a couple things, but I'd rather it gets so analytical, and we have the tools now to figure that out. But essentially, at the end of the day, right, we're trying to tackle 3 problems, and that's get in front of someone, have them be interested, and then have them buy, right? And I'm trying to simplify this. I come from a fire department culture, was with LA Fire for just almost 14 years. Like, everything is structure in my mind. We tier the system. We do, like, if I don't operate that way, it's all kerfuffle. So getting in front of people, right? That's exactly what Jonny was just talking about. How do we get in front of people, right? And then how do we get people interested, and how do we get people buying? Now, who's managing that? That's what Corey's talking about, right? How are we getting all those teams and things to work together? But then what do we sell? And I don't care if you're a 10 product brand, 100 product brand, or you're brand new to the market, like, what do you sell is everything. And so one of the things that I use is, instead of saying USP, I say UVP. I say unique value proposition, meaning what are we going to bring to market, whether it's the 15th variation of my winning product, my hero product, or if it's a brand new product, what value am I going to bring? Now, how do I figure that out? Right? There's trillion-dollar organizations trying to figure that out. Apple's trying to figure that out, and they do a great job. So what value am I going to bring? How do I figure that out? But I'm not a trillion-dollar organization. Well, for the first time in history, we have literally the most powerful tool known to man, called AI. And it's sitting in the palm of our hand. It's actually kind of freaky. None of us are really using it correctly or to its full power, right? And I think they're hesitant to even let us know how to use it correctly into our full power. So how we prompt it is everything. And if I don't want to get too saturated here, but if we use AI with the also necessary tools that bring us onto Amazon, like ZonGuru, and we figure out these differentiation strategies and what products we want to go to and what category we want to go to, and then we use AI as the most analytical market researcher and build it on the back of those tools, we can find actual succinct answers. And so that's what we've been doing lately. I'm about 7 months into building a product discovery and development tool. And if you guys want, DM me the word build on Instagram or LinkedIn at Ecom for Heroes 1M, and I will send you that prompt for free. So get after it. What you won't get for free is the actual dashboard tool, right? That's the whole thing that we have to develop, and we're almost there, but I will definitely give you that first access. But the thing is, when I'm in the market, I'm either iterating or I'm dying. I'm either improving or I'm losing sales, right? I can't just have the same content and the same search engine optimization and everything that Jon talked about with Cosmo AI. I have to be iterating. And that's why my first question was, how often? Because this is a living organism, right? How often? And realistically, every second. But, it sounds like once a month, right? A/B test all the time, all this good stuff. So how do I figure out what to build and how to build it? And that's what we've been prompting, and just for historical sake, 5-6 years ago, we used to have to farm all the reviews, all the Reddit comments, put them into spreadsheets, all the Google reviews, all the Google comments, try to find random YouTube videos and reviewers talking about whatever product or niche within a niche that we're going for, put them in a spreadsheet, and then create categorical analysis of like what's consistent, what's not, what do they really want, right? Now AI can do that for us. And so we built that tool. We got the MVP live, but it's connected with APIs to Reddit, to Google, to Amazon, to TikTok, trends, following all these things to figure out what's next. How do I create that next thing? And in a consumer market like we're in today, I mean, any of us go on our social media profiles, the algorithms are fit to make sure that we're seeing the most refined little bubble of the things that we like. And we observe that in politics, unfortunately, but that's also in your interests. So, lately I've been seeing a lot of golf swing techniques, pet products, and stuff about babies because my wife and I are pregnant. So that's what my algorithm is going to start just feeding me. And if I start liking, surfing photos again, it's going to start feeding me all the surfing stuff. And my point is make whatever it is you're making, make it specifically for someone who that algorithm will feed it to. Who is your specific avatar? Who is that specific person? And this is something I tell my clients almost every day, is that if I've made something for everyone, I just made something for no one, because no one will connect to it. And so I don't care if you're Mary Ruth's Organics and you're, hitting $500 million in revenue. What's your next product? Because it better be for a specific avatar. Otherwise, no one's going to buy it. Or if you're brand new to the market and you're just hitting your 1 to 2 variation paranacin, who's it for, right? Like, what problem are we solving? And so these are the things that we need to attack, right? And these are the things that we need to figure out. And then lastly, once I did all that research and I've combined, trillions of data points at the end of the day using AI, I need to go make it. And I need to make sure the margins and the product actually fit. Now, a lot of that still happens on Alibaba, because I know the white label Alibaba model's dead, but not the private label. We just got to get in contact with manufacturers. We got to get people that are on board with us. And then once we do that, we pull test, verify, we pre-sale, we do all these market tests, market polls to verify, did I make a thing that you and I thought was cool, or is there an actual 400+ million North Americans would be interested in? Like, is there an actual niche in there? And so really, really like analyzing that. And again, it doesn't matter if this is your first product or your 100th. Not to go too long, but one of the books that I love is this book called Deep Survival. And essentially talks about, it's by Lawrence Gonzalez. And he talks about how some people survive in extreme situations and some people don't. And he talks about what salty is, getting salty. Now, it's a very familiar term in the first responder military world, but in business as well, the older and more tenured we are, the saltier we get. And essentially it means we kind of get lazy and cocky. And the way he defined it is we're getting away with bad habits for too long. So when we're launching or iterating our next product, did we go through every one of those steps to make sure it's going to be a UVP? Did we do it or are we just getting salty and thinking like, oh man, I got the golden touch, the Midas touch, right? And we have the tools now. We just know how to prompt them. We need to know how to use them. And so that's what we're creating to make sure the brands, whether you're brand new, trying to create that brand relevance, which Jonny, that was one of my questions for you, is one of your first things you mentioned was everything's about brand development. And so I was going to ask you guys what you're doing to ensure that from the go. I mean, it's easy to say if I'm, a 10 million a month brand, no big deal. But like if I'm a $10,000 a month brand, that's a big battle. So what are we doing, right? And so one of my answers to this, and I'd love to know if you guys agree or disagree. So I've created a product. It's amazing. It's branded. It's private labeled. I did all my research. It's niche within a niche. It's specific for an avatar. So one of my answers is only market for and to that avatar and build that brand trust with that specific, and don't even try. Like, so if I created a cat supplement, don't even sell it or market it to dogs at all, right? Only for cats. So, being super specific on that. But, and then lastly is encourage you guys, if you're not already, and I'm assuming you are, but like get on these massive AI tools, whether it's Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok, they all have different strengths. and then iterate over and over and over again. The movie quote that I always think about is, you guys seen the movie Super Troopers? Little classic one. When he's they're looking at some photo on the screen and he's doing some joke and he's like, enhance, right? He just keeps saying it until it's like literally just blurry. That's what we do with AI. Like, don't just ask it a question and be like, try it again. Like, literally just keep telling it enhance until it's literally ridiculous. Like, threaten it. That's actually one of the funny things. I think the Google AI, one of the head talkers, literally said, threaten it. Like, say, I will box you up and ship you to Russia if you do not complete this to my expertise. Like, my life depends on it. Go. Like, and it just urges it. So, yeah, hopefully that all made sense in one small shot. But again, if you want that prompt, I will give that to you. If you reach out, just DM me build, and it's at Ecom for Heroes, either Instagram or LinkedIn.
Awesome. Yeah, drop that into the chat if you can. Yeah, super cool. And it just reminds me, like, and we've seen this, like, we're all a little salty and further along in our lives, but we've been through these rapid game-changing evolutions in e-commerce, marketing, etc. Right back to the internet, social media. This is another evolution, and what it's really doing over time is just driving us to be, as humans, be more expertise and more creative, right? And the excuse not to have the answers becomes less and less. And it reminds me of, like, when I started ZonGuru, the big thing that I had in my head, which came from the agency days, was GIGO, right? Garbage in is garbage out. And what AI is helping to prove is, like, you're getting better information in, and you have the ability to get that. And then what do you do with that, right? And so everything you're doing around that research for the product and getting all those very specific answers to build a UVP that better connects with that customer at the emotional level. That's like the genius of, like, marketing over the years. Like, those brands that were successful because they figured out a creative way to connect in a different way to an audience and see an insight. We have more and more of that available to us, and that's the cool part of AI, right? And I think there was even a question earlier from someone, I think right at the beginning, which is what we all experience, the anxiety around AI, which is like, hey, like, all these jobs that are dropping out of Amazon because of AI, and, like, what is the impact of that? And there's a lot into that, but we've seen over the years how much wealth, like, for example, the .com era brought around, right? And the same thing is going to happen, and is happening already in the AI era. I think there might be a sense of, like, hey, it's going to take humans a little bit of time to just catch up, and it's going to be a massive disruption before we figure it out and the wealth is created. But the opportunities are massive in there, right? So if there is anxiety around that, they need to lean into being at the cutting edge of AI, right? And so what you're building and everything you're putting in there and building on top of that is absolutely cutting edge, and will help people create better brands and better experiences, which is pretty cool. All right, guys. Yeah, so we're going to wrap up and maybe just answer a couple questions. If there are any questions, again, just drop them into the chat. We can bring up a few of these and just have a conversation in the meantime. But hey, maybe as a prompt, is there one thing that you as the audience are challenged with and want to surface as a piece of conversation right now? Just drop it in the chat, and we can come back to that in a second. I saw one question here. I think someone was saying, hey, what about Reddit and how ChatGPT pulls in that data and makes recommendations? So, like, that's an interesting conversation. And Reddit has become so much more valuable because at the end of the day, like, AI needs to learn off of something that is authentic, right? And Reddit is one of the places where there's probably the most authentic conversations, at least amongst humans, and what humans care about is happening, right? So, there is a big movement right now for brands, and there's agencies popping up, like, how do we get better presence on Reddit, right? So as a brand, all of us included, getting into those authentic conversations, YouTube, Reddit, LinkedIn, I guess, Instagram, all those kind of things are really, really critical. And on Amazon, again, like, you've got to take the same similarities and say, okay, well, what is Rufus and Cosmo learning on, right? And reviews and Q&A is the authentic conversations that are happening on the platform, and so they lean into that a lot more, right? So getting the customer sentiments and understanding what is being answered and talked about in that space is so critical, obviously for your product differentiation, but how you connect as well. Any other comments on that?
Yeah, I was just to say that Reddit is very much the authentic space, and even just from an agency side, it's a little shift in conversation. But I've never posted on Reddit. I've never posted on any forums. I wouldn't promote my brand on there. But when other people do it for you, that's the magic, right? Like, so I've had some other people ask the question, like, what agency should we use in the SMB space for Amazon? And 2 or 3 people posted us and liked it, and then hired us and then liked it. And that has gotten us more than going to some of the shows we've gone to in terms of, so if you're a brand out there and you get people talking about, and maybe there's ways to kind of engineer that a little bit, but keep it authentic, let them have the conversation, right? That can be so heavy. And then if AI is starting to crawl and scrape and grab all of that and starting to kind of regurgitate that, repackage it, that could be a really, really powerful tool over time.
Yeah, 100%. Good. Just trying to see if there's other questions here. I do see a common question here, and this is about ZonGuru and the Cosmo transformation service versus what's inside of listing optimization at the moment inside of our tool. Just remember that this is a precursor to what we're building to ZonGuru, and we've offered it as an early access tool that's built, around the shift that's happening towards the Cosmo transformation. What's happening is a lot of people are doing that, and they're putting it into Listing Optimizer, which has an automatic upload to Amazon. But when you put it into Listing Optimizer inside of ZonGuru, it gives you a score, and they're seeing a lower score. And there's a reason behind that. Is because that score right now is based on purely A9 versus the Cosmo mapping side of it. What you have to understand as a customer is that even though the score might be lower at this point on A9 because it's not keyword stuffed, the mapping of Cosmo gives you the semantic mapping to all of the keywords that are out there. And certainly your title still needs to be exact and broad match. So it's a little bit of a technical piece there, but understand that pushing it live as it stands, which is also mapped for A9 in your title, will give you more, the same, if not more, sessions, and then obviously better conversion and the way the listing is written. You can A/B test that if you're not sure yet. A/B test, and you'll start to see the results. So, and then the second point is, yes, this will. There is an upgrade happening right now around the actual scoring system in listing optimization for the mapping. But right now, if you want it mapped, use the Cosmo transformation service, which is available to everyone through that link that we provided. Okay, let's see if there's any other. I don't actually. Habib came up with a question around Amazon Quick Suite. Does anybody know what that is? Amazon Quick Suite. Quick Suite, yeah.
It sounds like an alternative to NAN, but
yeah, that's what. Yeah, I guess that's what he's asking about. I don't know that. I mean, we use NAN in our structure. Obviously, there's different platforms that can be used. NAN is good. It's a strong. The one thing I'll just say about development in the new AI era, like. AI is incredibly fast at coming up with MVP concepts, right? But truly to make it scalable and how stable and all that still leans a lot into pure engineering, right? So those people out here, like how you want to use AI in development and Lovable and everything else, like just remember you can get an easy concept, but actually to make something scalable, there's still a big investment that has to happen behind that, right? So I guess maybe that will help with his question if he's going to be using Amazon Quick Suite. Anything else, guys? Maybe I don't see any other questions here right now coming in. If there are, we can address it right in. But maybe just a quick one for you guys. Like, what is the one thing that you think brands should focus on to be successful, either in the finishing of this year or into the new year? Is there anything that jumps out to you that you're hearing in the space that you think is important for brands or agencies to hear that are on the call here today? Maybe Jonny, we go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, probably counter to every other point everyone's making. On the ad side, actually, we're seeing substantially better results being more manual and less AI driven and less automation heavy. I actually think because it's moving too quickly, some of these old models, I won't speak to specific softwares, they aren't actually working that well. And we're finding more manual management and getting involved, single keyword campaigns, like the general graph everyone knows they need to do, that's typically been giving better results. And we've seen a huge improvement from leaning more that way over the past few months. So that would be my advice for everyone moving into Q4, particularly because it's such a fast moving time. Sometimes these AI models are a bit slow.
100% agree. Yeah. That kind of like easy, quick adjustment on the back end. There's this kind of tail wagging the dog effect, right? So I would agree with that. Corey.
Content, always content. You can spend until the cows come home, but if you don't have good content and you're not iterating on that, testing it and making sure that it's doing the work for you, you will just be burning money and inventory. So content all day.
Yeah, I'll double down on that because I speaking of AI, the new algorithms, followers is a vanity metric now. So in case in point, meaning I literally have one follower, make one post and go completely viral. And if it's attached to my product, make tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Case in point, my next door neighbor posted a video of their dog doing a goofy thing with, throwing a toy at their owner, and it was funny and yada, yada. It was their third post. They have 800 followers and it just hit 27 million views. It does not matter how many people are following you. It matters, again, the algorithm is finding, whether it's political, whether it's golf, whether it's babies, whatever it is, whatever I like to see, it's going to niche it all the way down and then make sure it perpetuates over and over and over and over again. So when you're making content, one, make a ton. Be on every channel that you can. TikTok awards you for having repetitive content, whereas the others negate you. But get that flywheel going and start making content for value, not trying to be viral. So, right, the value in the dog video was, it was funny, and the dog literally wanted to play with the owner and literally chucked a toy at his back. It was funny. And the guy turns around and starts playing. But so it was like the value there was how silly the dog is. And it was a joyful moment. But create the value in your content. Don't just try to be viral. And then, not to go too deep in that, but it actually rewards negativity a little bit more because for whatever reason, as humans in our psychology, we're negative bias and we're kind of a-holes there. So getting around that and doing a double negative, like another one that I saw was a travel post of one of my friends who does travel agency stuff. And she said, why I dislike and will never go to the Maldives again. And then it was every post after that was ironic. It was like, because the sunsets are just too beautiful, right? And it was like, the beaches are too, right? She was just like joking, but that negativity actually, double negative turned to the positive there, got that viral post. So yeah, content. And it sounds expensive. It sounds like a lot of work, but I can generate, 100 pieces with a really good prompt on Gemini, whether I'm using Nano Banana or VO or Flow. We have people are making literal movies out of the AI tool. So yeah, if you're not doing it, have someone do it and just start iterating and repeating. So yeah, content.
Yeah, agree for sure. And I mean, Alex Hormozy, who I know probably all of us follow, he's like, hey, if I'm going to do 10 posts a day, it's just normal physical science that if I do 100 posts a day, I'm going to get more customers, right? So obviously the value is in the content, but getting it out there is critical. And now more than ever with AI, you have the ability to create better content and distribute it in a better way. So, I mean, my advice on that, generally the one thing is like everyone has to be AI proficient, right? And we talked about team and everything else. Like, how is your team using it to make their job better? How are you using it? And as a brand owner or a founder, you have to be at the cutting edge, right? Otherwise, you are left behind. So, if that means courses or things that you need to really digest and implement into your business, like it is absolutely critical to be, on the edge of that and ahead of the game. So get involved and don't stick your head in the sand. This is the time for you to be steps ahead of others, and it's the natural flow of what's happening right now. Guys, brilliant, really good. Everyone's going to get the recording. Don't worry. thank you, everyone, for jumping on. I appreciate it. I hope to see you guys all in person soon at whatever next event. If there's questions on our technology or anybody else's in the replays, you guys can answer. If it comes from ZonGuru, we'll still respond and we'll connect you with everyone here. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of October. I'm actually going to jump on a flight right now to London and then over to Bulgaria, where I'm going to be hanging out with my team in person. So I'm excited by that. But I wish everyone good for Q4, and let's go get it. And thanks again, guys, for the time and for sharing your insights with today's audience. Cheers.
Thanks, Ron.
Pleasure.